Hey everybody, it's James Stone here, president of NorCal Guides and Sportsmen's Association, coming to you live on this Saturday, September 28th. Wanted to give everybody an update of what's going on with the fisheries at the end of 2024 and beginning of 2025. So we will allow some people to join here. I know that this was an event that a lot of people wanted to hear and kind of get some information. So I will kind of just let some people join here, and hope you're all having a great Saturday. And we will get underway here in about a minute and get everybody up to speed on what's going on with all of the anadromous fisheries, as well as the inland and lake fisheries and everything like that. So thank you very much for joining today, and we're really excited to share with you some fishery stuff today, and then also we're going to come straight to you with some dinner information. Our big dinner is November 2nd in Marysville, California, and it's going to be a great event. The board of directors is really excited for me to tell you kind of all the other things that we're working on at the dinner and everything that's going to be expected year after year for all of our membership that's there and for all of the kids that are there at the event. So we'll wait about another 1 minute and then we'll get underway on everything. But thank you all for joining again. And we're really excited to have a wonderful event coming up for you all. So as far as the fisheries go, the fisheries situation is different in every single anadromous species. So we are currently right here in September of 2024, and we are in the second full year of closures for salmon, for king salmon across the entire state of California. And last year in 2023, we had full closures in the ocean in Oregon, and then we had all closures in the coast of California and closures across the state of California inland as well. This year, the only difference between that closure for Chinook salmon in the state of California is that the Smith River and the Eel River are both open. Please make sure that you check all your regulations. It is catch and release in the Eel River only. And there is allowed for a small, limited amount of harvest in the Smith River up at the top of the state. And you can check out your regulations for that. And that's the only body of water that a salmon may be retained in the state of California. Otherwise, you're forced to go to Oregon or Washington or Idaho for getting Chinook salmon, or up into Alaska. So those are your only other options this year. So as far as the salmon season goes, what we're seeing is we just started seeing fish moving into the Sacramento River system and in the main stem of the Sacramento, where most of the cohorts have completely collapsed and failed, have been up in that upper stretch of the main stem, and we are seeing the lowest numbers in a 3-year geometric average than I think that we've ever seen in the history. 22, 23, 24 are going to be the worst 3 years consecutively in the history, I believe, of the Sacramento River. I don't believe that we've ever seen the lowest numbers that we're seeing now, and we won't have that official stat until after all of the counting is done this year. But I would say that you are seeing the worst returns in the history of the Sacramento main stem in the last 3 years. Again, that was 2022, 2023, and 2024. I'll also bring up that 2021 were terrible returns as well in the upper Sacramento River compared to historic averages. So in the Feather River last year, they counted through the counting weir and camera about 40,000 fish, including the carcass survey, with the camera and the carcass survey last year, and then they expanded that and then guesstimated that meant there was about 60 something thousand. I think it was 63 or something like that, a little over mid 60s on the total amount of fish in the river. They physically say they touched about 40,000, and then they said that there was 60,000 in the river was their estimate. And That is an estimate that, a lot of people have questioned over the years and on the accuracy. And I think that with the fish counting weir and the camera counting every individual fish, we should see more accurate numbers now moving forward into the future. And I think this will be the first year that you are going to see a far more accurate number rather than all these years of just guesstimates, because I believe that, it's like looking at geese in a field, and if you're not used to looking at geese in a field or ducks on a pond, you might say there's a million ducks out there or there's a million geese out there when it's really only 30, 40,000 geese. So that's kind of the comparison, is that, when we guesstimate, we often make mistakes. And I think that that's what's been done for many years. And we're seeing the Department of Water Resources are doing a good job with that new counting weir as far as having the accuracy of being able to dictate how many fish are actually in the Feather River. So as of right now, we've posted up the numbers that are being counted, that all that data is public information, and that number is right now at about 12,000 fall run fish, and they are a week behind, so that would take us all the way to about September 20th. And they've seen about 12,000 fall run. The estimate, again, this is a guesstimate, in the Sacramento main stem right now, is that we're probably only seeing 3,000 to 5,000 fish total that we've seen in the barge hole. We don't know if there's more fish coming up behind. Some people have said they've seen a few, but it's very few and far between. So we are expecting a full cohort collapse in the Sacramento River this year, according to all of the biologists, all of the data, including the jack numbers from last year. Remember, whatever the jack numbers, the 2-year-old salmon that are counted the previous year, so 2023, which was one of the lowest numbers in the history of that river system. We saw some of the lowest numbers ever. So sorry, I had a glitch right there, everybody. I was trying to reconnect to Wi-Fi. Hopefully that's a lot clearer for everybody. But the numbers that we are seeing in the Sacramento River are in the lower cohorts, as I mentioned. And so we are estimating that we're going to see some really, really low numbers this year in the Sacramento River. And the Feather River, we were hoping to see more numbers at this time. Looking back last year, about 25 to 28,000 fish moved in October into the low flow area. Spawning is underway on the Feather River in the spring run, and so they are completing all of their spawning. And they should be done with that here in the next couple of days, and then they will start taking inland fish in between the spring run and the fall run egg take for anadromous fisheries. They'll do a 5-day inland take from October 1st to October 5th, and then they will take those fish, and those will be raised at the inland hatcheries for the inland program. So you can expect to see that moving forward. So after that, you'll actually be able to, see that, see those numbers being increased throughout that system. And so, big thank you to CDFW for, all of the extra fish that they're going to try to raise for the inland Chinook program. They've been year after year trying to raise more fish and bring that program up. We're out of space in a lot of areas, and there's a lot of things that, are different for that program compared to an anadromous fishery program. But we want to, we're very happy that we are still taking Chinook eggs. Those used to all get taken up at Iron Gate in Klamath, and as all of you know, Iron Gate Dam has been removed, and Iron Gate hatchery is no longer there, and we have the Fall Creek hatchery up there that is now going to be doing the mitigation for the next 8 years, which is the responsibility of Pacific Corp. But so not to get too much into the Klamath right now, but getting back to the feathers. So October 1 to October 5, which is standard, which they take the fish in between the spring and the fall run. And then from there, they will be working on taking the fall run mitigation fish. And hopefully we start seeing, tens of thousands of fish moving in from the high flow and the outlet area up into the low flow channel into that area. So you know, we should see hopefully a lot of fish this year in the feather. We're hoping. However, these early numbers that we are seeing are a little bit lower than what were expected at this time. So I want everyone to be aware of that. And as far as the other river, the American River, which is the counties, right? It's the Feather, the American, and the Sacramento. It's those three rivers that are counted towards the PFMC 1984 escapement goal set at a minimum of 122,000 fish. And so we are estimating, you know, hopefully seeing some fish coming back to the American River as well, which will obviously pick up that system and start to rebuild in that lower system. As many of you know, there's been historically a lot of strays from the McCollum River into the American River, some years 30%, some years 60%. So there are a significant amount of strays, and there's a significant amount of jacks that enter that system. And, you know, as we've said multiple times on public record, and we've said in multiple meetings over the past 5-6 years that, you know, those jacks, that number of jacks has been biased. It's a biased number, and it has caused the over forecasting of many fish in the system. And so we're working on that long term, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But so just want to kind of give you guys all updates of kind of where we're at right now in late September and what we're seeing out on the river systems. We'll be doing a more conclusive final check-in and a live video at the end of October, and kind of giving you an update of kind of, you know, month by month of what we're seeing. You know, there's a lot of fish still to come, and I think that there's a lot of fish that could still show up at these hatcheries. So hopefully everyone, fingers crossed. Just to remember, at the PFMC in Fresno of March of this year, there was an estimated, we were told by the federal government that there was an estimated 213,000 Chinook salmon in the Central Valley available out in the ocean total. And National Marine Fishery Service demanded that we have a goal of 180,000 for escapement. That's after all fishing, the fish that actually escape from the ocean and get into the rivers and completely escape all the way through. And so that number would actually be, you know, above 180 is what the estimate was, although that the legal requirement is only 122,000. And so what we are estimating is that we are going to see, you know, hopefully over that 180 would be you know, the correct number that we would like to see. However, the minimum required by law is only 122,000, and what we've seen year after year is that even when we do target those upper numbers of 160, 180,000, even if we miss that NOAA guidance, which is done by the Department of Commerce, it's still time and time again, we miss those goals and those recommendations. But we just have to get the 122 minimum, because that's how the FMP is set up, and that's how the SMSY, the Harvest Control Rule, and then the MST are all set, and all of the other acronym standards that I don't want to confuse many of you with. But the rule is that when it falls below a 25% threshold of the minimum SMSY, which is 122,000, which if it falls below that on a 3-year geometric mean, about 25%, the number currently is 91,500 fish. At that point, then it requires rebuilding, and that happened in 2015, 16, 17. And so we had to do rebuilding plans in 2018 and 19, and it's many people's belief that that was needed again here a couple of years ago, just you know, looking at the 21, 22, 23 numbers, that we were completely collapsed again. So we will see those numbers and where they come out, and you will see where the state and federal government recommendations are and where they move forward into next season. Obviously, I think that the most important things for everyone to be watching is the jack numbers from this year. How many 2-year-old fish come back this year in 2024? That will give us an estimate with the escapement number, the total number of fish of adult 3, 4, and 5-year-olds that come back. And in those two numbers compared to the amount of harvest will give us an estimate of where we are long term of getting into an open season next year. But on paper and just looking at paper, it looked like that there was a very good opportunity that we will have a salmon fishing season next year. It possibly could be limited. We don't know yet, but it looked good long-term, looking at a long-term average that we were coming out of this hole. And so hopefully we will start seeing this increase in this incline of abundance pre-season. So when you're waiting for those numbers, those won't come out until late February. But once we hear those numbers in late February, whatever that number is, remember this year they said it was 213,000 were out there total to come home. And last year it was 165,000, which were some of the lowest numbers that we've historically ever seen. We're hoping to see numbers, over 300,000, which could activate a little modest season in the ocean and a modest season inland, although the cohorts of the Sacramento main stem are the concern. So kind of want to bring that to everyone's attention there, and I'll bring you more updates when we get into October and we get into where the hatchery counts are and kind of where they're at. But follow our page, and we are already posting the links to DWR and the Feather River so that you can actually follow that along live every week. We post all of those updates, and we'll post any other updates that we hear from any hatcheries that share the information with us of kind of where they're at and where we think we're at totally as a whole. But salmon have been in trouble for multiple years, and I think everyone knows that. Moving into, the two of the other fisheries that are highly affected with salmon that are following on a parallel are steelhead and the native rainbow trout fishery up in Redding. And I want to talk about those briefly and just, how affected those are and how this organization has continually fought and sat in countless meetings and brought up all of the data and all of the input and all of the stats and all of the citizen collected science that we are seeing on the river every single day, from our drift boat fly guides that are fly fishing from Caldwell Park posse grounds all the way down to Anderson, and all of our jet boat operating fly fishermen that are conventional fishermen that are fishing the same, from Bonneview down to Anderson Park, or down to the Barge Hole, or down to Bend Bridge, and what we're seeing. And we have been seeing a decrease in the amount of rainbow trout that are in the river at certain times. And there was a lot of big water that came down this year, which a lot of people say hurt the bug hatch and hurt the food web for these rainbow trout. And so some were forced to go up into the tributaries, and others were forced into other habitat areas that they normally historically don't spend lots of time in. So we are concerned of that, and we have shared those thoughts with Fisheries Branch and are awaiting, what the plan is for that, because that fishery is a catch and release fishery only, and there is no artificial supplementation of planting fish besides steelhead from Coleman National Fish Hatchery. And so getting into the steelhead, this organization has been fighting for steelhead for years. Specifically speaking, on the Central Valley rivers, the biggest thing that we've done is that we worked with Coleman to stop euthanizing a lot of the kelts, the steelhead kelts, the larger adult fish that come back and get spawned. And historically what they did was they put them all in a big holding tank or holding pond outdoors, and there was no netting on it. And so eagles were coming down and grabbing them, osprey were grabbing them. We are getting raccoons that were breaking in and killing them. And then also they were just dying because of the amount of space that was there, and the water and water temperature and environment and everything else. So we're advocating to try to put those fish back into the river sooner, and we've been advocating for that for 7+ years, and Coleman has been working with us on that. So big thank you to Coleman National Fish Hatchery for everything they're doing on the steelhead program and trying to get more fish for you back in the river and returning those kelts back to the system, which allow an angler opportunity, and it also allows that fish to go back to the ocean and then to come back again and spawn. Although that's not very likely on hatchery stocks, they don't see them coming back all the time, it still does provide an angler opportunity. And so we are advocating for that, and this organization has been doing that for 7 full years, and we're very proud of fighting for that steelhead fishery. When it comes to the steelhead and the trout on the Feather River, we are seeing 50% of those fish that come back to the Feather River hatchery are removed from the system, those kelts, and they take 50%, they put them back in the river, and then the other 50%, they're putting those into the Orville after bay. So that there is a possibility for anglers to go catch those, but they're trying to reduce the amount of hatchery influence in the Feather River for the steelhead program by removing those adult fish and putting them into another area rather than back into the river for angler opportunity. And so that's been a consistent program that's gone on for many years, and we're very we're very grateful that we're not euthanizing these fish, but anything that we can do to always provide angler opportunity and access and raise more fish is what this organization's mission is, and will continue to be, and so moving forward. So and then also down in the American River, we're seeing, a lot less steelhead than we've seen over the years. And many people know historically that steelhead runs were epic years ago on the American River. And the last 15 years, it's been rather pathetic and rather collapsed. We're seeing some runs that are a little bit better than others, but we're not seeing any of the numbers that we normally historically used to see on the American River, and we're continually advocating for trying to rebuild that system. I think the biggest thing for that system is the water and how hot that water is in July, August, September, and October. They don't start cooling that water until November, per the Bureau of Reclamation, and the reason why is because that's when the hatchery, the Nimbus and the American River hatchery, want the coldest water for their Chinook salmon program, is they need that colder water to be saved until the end of the year when there's less temperature, exterior, and everything else. The negative is that has killed off a lot of our earlier steelhead runs and a lot of our early salmon runs. I mean, historically, those of us that lived in Sacramento and fished the American River remember seeing fish in May, June, July. And now the kids today will never see those fish in May, June, July unless there's strays coming. But those fish have been killed off, and they are no longer there. So most of those fish in the American River will start coming in October and November, and they are a later run. And historically, we as humans have push that, whether it was intentional or not intentional. Our practices in the hatchery and our water operations with Folsom through Nimbus has caused a die-off of a lot of those earlier fish. And so that kind of gives you an update on the Central Valley system and everything there for salmon, steelhead, and trout. Now I'd like to cover the Klamath real quick and just say that all 4 dams are out of the upper dams. So you've got JC, Copco 1, Copco 2, and Iron Gate Dam. They are all fully removed. The Klamath River is fully free-flowing all the way into the Oregon border now and all the way to Klamath Lake. We are seeing an immense amount of sediment that is being disturbed and being released from these facilities where they were removed and where these dams were removed, and that was to be expected. Our organization remained neutral on the Klamath Dam removal throughout the entire process. Remaining neutral means that we can make positive and make negative comments about things that we are worried about, and we did make a lot of comments about the amount of sediment that we were concerned about. Obviously, whenever there are barriers in a waterway for an anadromous species, it hinders them from access to habitat and from reaching upper range habitat, generally speaking, that allows them to provide them colder water. But the negative is that after these dams have been in place for so many years, that there's so much organic and natural leaves, bark, matter, and everything else decaying animals and everything else, and fish, and just everything that's built up behind these dams for years and years and years. And then once they dig them out and all of that is released downstream, it can cause some issues. And so there's a number of pages you guys can all follow to really get in with a lot of the new Klamath Dam information. There's Klamath Dam removal pages. There's KRRC, which are the administrators of removing all the dams, and they're responsible for all of that. And They are working at the hatchery, Fall Creek Hatchery, and they're hopefully going to be releasing fry and smolt from that hatchery, Chinook, and they are supposed to start raising some coho up there as well. And so hopefully we'll start seeing a rebound in the Klamath system. We are aware that the department has recommended that more than likely the next 10 to 15 years there will not be any angling above these dams to the Oregon border, that area will all be closed to fishing because of trying to protect the Chinook salmon from reaching those areas and trying to recolonize those areas. And hopefully we're going to do a lot of work, moving hatchery fish up there and other fish up there so that we can start rebuilding that system as fast as possible. But the Klamath is free flowing, and there's a lot of turbidity in areas, and there's a lot of areas below the Trinity confluence that are pretty clean, and so we should be expecting hopefully that some fish do return, and we'll see where those numbers all end up at the end of the year here coming up. So it kind of gives you an update there. 2 more fisheries updates, and then I'm going to get into the dinner. Our dinner is November 2nd, Marysville, California, and it's the NorCal Guides and Sportsmen's Dinner that is, designed for all of our membership to show up and contribute and donate, and we'd love to see all of you there. The other 2 anadromous species we've been working on a lot lately have been sturgeon for the last year and a half. The sturgeon fishery was under attack for closing it down in regards to they were individuals that wanted to close the fishery down because of the numbers of sturgeon that were being caught and the overharvesting that was being claimed, and some other things that were being claimed. And not to get into the weeds with all of it, but the long and the short was that there was a difference of opinion on what the anglers and the captains and the sturgeon fishermen have been seeing for the last few years, and what numbers we have all been seeing compared to the limited amount of data that has been reported back on the report cards, which is a 30% rate of the people that buy the report cards. Last year, 45,000 people buy report cards, but only 15,000 are returning them. So we're penalized for that because, they start claiming, scientists start claiming that, well, if, this 30% caught this many fish, well, how many are the other 60% of the people catching? When in reality, the truth is that the people that aren't returning cards are people that just buy the card normally, and they are completely unaware of that they have to return the card the next year, and that data is important to the future of our fisheries. But I will say that with everything that went down on sturgeon, that now we are in a place to where our organization was fighting really hard to try to get the fishery back open, and we were able to apply for a 84 Fish and Game Code exception, to which they didn't need to get to our petition because the commissioners decided to allow a catch and release fishery at the last commission meeting, and the fishery will open back up on October 1st in the rivers above Sacramento for October, November, December only, and it will open until, I believe, June 30th for all waters, San Francisco Bay, Delta, up to Sacramento. You will not be allowed to catch and release and fish in the rivers anymore after December 31st. And you will only be able to catch and release down in the Delta and Bay. This will happen while they are in candidacy and during this 1-year term review. And then by the time we get to July next year, we should see new data and new information out from the department, from the sturgeon research programs, from the pit tagging program, from the long line program, and from all of the data that all the captains collected with the FLAME data, which is the fisherman-led assessment monitoring experiment, working with Cal Poly Humboldt and NorCal Guides and Sportsmen's Association, that have collected data on well over thousands of sturgeon in the last few years, which is the most current data that is out there for sturgeon. And so a lot of the captains had donated their time and tried to work as hard as they could to try to keep that fishery open and bring credible data and the newest data to the department so that we can move forward into positive territory. So hopefully we will see that coming to light. But you will be forced to catch and release. You will be forced to buy a tag for catch and release. So if you do participate in that fishery and you buy a catch and release tag, please make sure you fill it out and turn it in. They are due on January 31st for this last year, and then after January you'll be required next year to be buying a new tag for 2025. I believe they're around $10 or $11 now, and then you will be forced to turn that back in the following January for any catch and release fishery that you did on sturgeon. The last fishery that I'll talk about is the anadromous striped bass fishery, and our organization has been working for multiple years on striped bass with the slot limit and trying to protect the larger breeder stocks that are the big males, big females. We have seen a huge drastic decline in those bigger fish, over 30 inches. They historically used to dominate our rivers in the spawning times in the March, April, May timeline, and we are starting to see a lot less of those bigger fish in the system. We're also seeing a lot more of the younger fish. So we're starting to see, cohorts actually, returning, but we're not seeing those fish mature and reach those larger ages to where they are helping the population. And we are seeing a parallel decline with a lot of the other anadromous species. And so although striped bass are going to probably outlive all of the cold water anadromous fish that require cold water, striped bass are the hardiest because they couldn't make it in a different situation. And so it will be a good thing to implement the slot limit, and a lot of us are going to be rallying over the next year to try to get that done. And the department has stepped forward in supporting an 18 to 30 inch slot limit. And so all that means is that you'd be able to keep 2 fish per day anywhere in the state that allows striped bass fishing in anadromous waters. The lakes would not change. They would still be the same limits they are currently today. And then you would be able to, fish for striped bass there, and you would be good to go. But hopefully that would help the species so that they stop their rapid decline. So hopefully that gives you kind of an update on where we're at for all the things that we're working on. And there's many other things that we are working on. We are sitting in constant meetings trying to raise the floor escapement on the Sacramento River, which will be one of the legacies of this organization. That rule has not been changed since 1984. As mentioned before in this live video, salmon have that minimum threshold of 122,000. In the Klamath, they have that minimum threshold of 40,700. If those numbers are going to go up according to the fisheries management plan, that only adds more opportunity to all of the inland anglers that are out there. So it will help all inland anglers long term, and that could be a good move, and it's needed to be done for multiple years. There's been multiple scientists as far back as 1977, 1986. There was multiple papers written in the early 2000s, and then there's been a few people that have spent an immense amount of time, I mean literally probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours working on this over the last year. And big shout out to them, the Pacific Southwest Science Center, and all the others on the work group that are working hard trying to see what to do. So currently that's underway, and the work groups have been meeting constantly throughout the year, and they're putting forward a few things for methodology review, moving into the November council meeting, and they will be making those recommendations, and then they will go under the methodology review all of 2025, and we should see something get implemented in March of 2026, which will in turn help all of you. So hopefully that gives you kind of another thing that we're working on, and there are many more, but not to bore all of you today. But this organization is working hard. We have multiple volunteers that are going around and trying to help fundraise, multiple volunteers that are going around trying to help spread awareness, do public awareness, working on our youth program, and trying to find ways that this organization can promote fishing and hunting through the R3 program, as well as to everyone in Northern California that we can help. And, we've given out more lifetime licenses, I believe, than any other nonprofit group that's out there. We have constantly given back 20 plus lifetime licenses, and the majority of those are to children, so that they can fish and hunt in the state of California for the rest of their lives for free. And I think that that's one of our largest things, is trying to get these kids long-term into fishing and hunting, and to take away that burden of them having to buy a license. You know, every year at our dinner, November 2nd this year, we always give away kids lifetime licenses. It's one of the greatest things that we ever do. And so then any of you that have ever been to the dinner all know about that. So getting into the dinner, why it's so important that you support this organization. It's so important that you support this organization just simply because of everything that's going on and the state of our fisheries and that they're in. And if this organization happened to go away, or if this organization was to change its operating procedures, it would completely allow just any policy to come into play, because we are the only organization that is standing up right now for all of your anadromous fisheries and that are attending all of the Fish and Game Commission meetings, the Wildlife Resources Committee, the Pacific Fisheries Management Council, the California Advisory Committee for salmon, steelhead, and trout, for all of the meetings with CDFW, for all of the public meetings on behalf of any of the inland fisheries and the inland program and kokanee program. The kokanee program is being supported by Kokanee Power as well as SIFI. Big shout out to those two organizations. They're always attending all of the inland meetings, and so big shout out to them. But this organization that we are part of, NorCal Guides and Sportsmen's Association, is fighting as hard as they can every single day, and we have not stopped. So Monday through Friday, we are working in meetings and trying to attend these. We are flying in different states. We're flying to Southern California when the meetings are down there. We're attending at all different places in order to try to fight for your fisheries and to represent all of you, which is what our membership of our nonprofit is all about. And so we just want to let you all know that it is so important to support this organization, because if we lose the support, if the support does not increase from what it currently is, it's going to go away. And it's so important that the board wanted me to at least reach out to everybody out there and let them know about how important it is for your membership and how important it is to donate and support this organization, so that we can continue to keep our volunteers running out there on the streets and continue to fund those projects, continue to fund the youth program, continue to fund having employees and having consultants and having lobbyists in Washington, D.C., in Sacramento, fighting for you and for fighting for your rights to hunt and fish in the state of California. And, we have seen one of the worst economies that I've seen in my lifetime over the last 12 months. And I understand that, it's very hard out there. We have double year of closure of salmon, and we've got sturgeon that just got closed down. And it's really hard out there for a lot of the anglers out there. I want to thank at this time all of the guides that have really donated a lot back and are trying to donate trips for the organization to raise money to continue its mission and its process. And a big shout out to all the guides. We've been doing multiple shout outs to all of them on social media. So please, if you see a guide that has supported this organization and donated a trip this year, those are the guides that we want you to support. We want you to go support the guides that are supporting the fight and the cause to ensure that your kids and your grandkids are out there fishing in 10 years and in 20 years, because if this organization goes away, they won't be fishing and hunting in 10 or 20 years. It will all go away. And I can't be more serious about that. And so, at this time, please, grab the flyer off of our website, share it with a couple of friends, buy a sponsor table through your business, donate something, even if it's $5, even if it's $10, it doesn't matter. Raindrops fill the bucket. It's about all of us. It's not about one or two of us. It's about all of us working in conjunction together on a bigger common goal. That's the whole point of a nonprofit. And we're very grateful that we're able to continually run the nonprofit as best as that we currently can. And the board wants to continue to offer all of the benefits and services that we've continued to offer. But if the trend continues moving into the next 30 days into this dinner, it has been declining, and that's because of the state of the economy and the state of the fisheries. And so we understand the struggles, we understand the heartache and where we're at, but we are doing a call to action today to make sure that you support the organization, because If you enjoy seeing all these reports from me all the time, if you enjoy seeing all these things, those things could go away. Those things could change if things don't get better moving forward into the future. And so we just want to thank all of our supporters, all of our donors, all of our guides, all of our lifetime members, all of our businesses, all of our youth members. We are fighting for you, and we haven't stopped fighting for you, and we will continue to fight for you and to make sure that these fisheries get better and that we leave these fisheries better off than the way that we found them. So the ways that you can support us, the best way is just go to our website, ncgasa.org. You can sign up for a membership today for $30 for the whole year and have all the benefits of the association. As well, you could buy, a hat and support us, or, buy a face mask to support us, or you could come to the dinner. But it is most important right now that we call to all of our members to please support our dinner. November 2nd, Marysville, California. Please go to ncgasa.org and sign up today. Buy tickets. You can buy a single ticket, couples ticket, youth ticket. Come watch what we do and donating back to the kids. Come watch how we support all of the kids with the Rod and Reel program, and how we support all the kids with the lifetime license program. And come win a gun, come win a fishing trip. There's a lot of things that you can win at this wonderful event. And we just want to thank all of you for everything you've done for all of us over these years. And we wanted to tell you all that how important it is now when we're down, right? When we have closures of fisheries and everybody's hurting. This is the time we have to band together. We have to unite. We have to support the common goals. So thank you very much to everyone out there, and I appreciate all of you, and we'll come into you live in about a month with another live video, and we'll be doing that live from the Feather River, and we'll be giving you an update of where we're at on all of the hatcheries and where we're at on all the system and what updates have happened and where we are moving forward into that. So thank you very much for all of your time. Hope you enjoyed the fisheries updates, and please share the flyer, the dinner flyer, with a friend or two, and buy a couple tickets and come support us and come have fun. And we enjoy always supporting all the kids and supporting all of